We really do have an exciting program today, and I think exciting primarily because it's very different than what we have come to expect from our Wake Up Waukegans. So we're really excited today to have David Verbeten along with Bonnie Richtman, who are going to give us some guidance. So I'm going to give you a brief bio of each one and then kind of an outline for how they intend to pursue the program today. Dave is a business owner with broad senior level experience in sales and marketing, operations, global business development, general management, business turnarounds, and the sale of companies. He is a hands-on advisor at business growth and is focused on helping small and medium-sized businesses through difficult transitions. He has a very impressive resume, I think perhaps the most important of which, or at least the most impressive. As a partner in an interim CEO consulting firm, Dave was key in doubling the revenues of the business for over his 2 years, and he sourced the firm's largest client, bringing in one that was worth $2 million alone. He has succeeded in moving his teams to achieve major turnarounds in the United States, Asia, and Europe. He has reorganized large multi-unit divisions into customer-focused, fast-moving enterprises, creating vibrant businesses from new product concepts, and moved the uninspired toward a high-performance mentality. I think we'd all like to have that in our companies, wouldn't we? Bonnie Richtman is here with Dave. Bonnie has broad multi-level experience in business administration, marketing, human resources, motivational speaking, training, and employee development. I think the microphone just quit, didn't it? All right, I'll set it down. Bonnie's corporate experience involves senior management with companies such as Cushman & Wakefield and Weight Watchers International. She built her own local Cushman & Wakefield office from $3.2 million to more than $13 million. A very impressive accomplishment, and with her Weight Watchers, she was able to increase attendance tenfold from about 50 to 500 per week. What I like about Bonnie is she is dedicated to community service. She worked with the Chicago Police Department in a program that was developed to both train and employ at-risk young adults. She worked with local job placement officers for the city of Chicago to hire physically challenged individuals, and she continues to live that today. She is, for the village of Grays Lake, she is one of their fire commissioners. So she started up and built with a partner a physical rehabilitation company, growing up to $1 million before selling it to her partner, and she is now the VP of Business Development for Peak Performance Action Coach, located in Grays Lake. So the way the program's going to work today, Bonnie's going to start with a little storytelling to kind of set the tone. We often find that we give far too much power to our current circumstances and we lose sight of what could be possible. Nevertheless, through the variety of strategies that will be talked about by Dave, we can learn how to visualize that what's possible and transform it to making it so. With all best intentions that come from goal setting, Dave will then guide us through the assortment of strategies that allow us to crystallize our goals and seeing the changes that we have to make to increase the probability of achieving those objectives. He will share proven formulas for assessing change and identifying the individual needs for change in mindset and actions. In addition, he will discuss how to overcome frequent roadblocks to goal achievement that are related to procrastination, self-sabotage, time management, and then provide tips for getting past why we get stuck in the first place. So if you recognize any of these hurdles, and I certainly do it myself and within our organization, then experiencing Bonnie and Dave's presentations will be perfect. So please welcome Dave Verbeten and Bonnie Richtman.
Good morning. So the setup of the setup, and I didn't let Hal know that that's how it was going to work. So the setup of the setup is this. How many of you, let's say at the turn of the year, January, set some personal and some business goals for yourself? Maybe recalibrated your vision. Same? Well, this is what often we discover when we work with business owners, managers, executives on their goals and vision, is as they look forward, they look through jaded lenses. Lenses that have been influenced by the past. And it really affects where you want to go, how you will define your destination. So Bonnie's going to set that up for you a little bit this morning with a great story. And then I'll follow through with all the stuff that Hal mentioned by giving you some strategies and some techniques for improving the probability of achievement. Would that be a good thing?
Yes.
Because it is almost the middle of the year and we're going, I have forgotten what my goals are or were, or I haven't even set down the time to measure them. That sometimes happens. So we're going to share some strategies and some techniques with you to improve the probability of achievement. And then we'll say thank you for listening, and off we go. So Bonnie?
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. One of the things that they did not mention is that I have 5 children. So in having 5 children, one of the favorite things that I like to do with my kids is read stories. I am big on children's stories. Those of you that read a lot of children's stories to your children, man, half the time the messages in there are for me, not for the kids. I am blown away by some of the things that I have come across. I came across a book called The Spyglass. Now, I'm not going to read it to you because it would take too long. I'm going to paraphrase. And I'm going to get you set up and tell you a little bit about what happened in this book that changes lives. So, are you ready? Okay, can you hear me? Yes. All right. Once upon a time, there was a kingdom. And the kingdom used to be great. But now it wasn't so great anymore. And the king of the kingdom remembers when it was great. He was a young king, and he was very unhappy about the state of his kingdom, but he didn't know what to do about his kingdom. All of his subjects were in the same place. One day, an old man came into town. And the old man came, knocked on the door. Servant opened it up, and the old man said, I'm traveling through your kingdom, and I need a place to stay. Can I stay at your inn? And the servant said, Why, sir, this isn't an inn. This is our castle. This is where our king lives. And the old man said, This isn't much of a castle. And the servant said, Aye, we've had some hard times. Let me go talk to the king. It happened to be dinner time, so he walks in. The servant goes in and says to the king, We have a man here who would like to spend the night. Can he join you? And the king said, Well, I don't know. Bring him in. So the old man came in, and the old man said, This isn't much of a castle. The king said, Yeah, I know. He says, You don't look like much of a king. Yeah, I know. He says, You want me to help you with that? He said, Can you help me with that? I think I can. Tell you what, if you give me some food to eat, some of your cheese and your bread, and you give me a place to spend the night, in the morning, I'll help you. So the king said, Okay. So they sat down and they had a meager meal. And during that night, as the king lay in bed, he wondered, Is this guy, can he really do something? Or did he just want a free place to stay? So he gets up the next morning. He's nervous, anticipating. The old man's ready. He's all set. He's got all of his gear on, and they're going to go out and see what's going on. So he said, Okay. So they went through the kingdom. And they came upon a place that used to be a park. And there were a lot of the subjects around the park. And the old man commented as they walked up to the park, Your kingdom is really shabby. King says, Yeah, I know. I don't know what to do about it, but I know. So they walk up to the park, what used to be a park, and they see people standing around, looking dejected, not very happy, not very well dressed, children playing in the dirt because there's no grass there, and people not really doing much of anything. And the old man said, You know what? I want you to take a look at this. And he brings out a spyglass. And he says, I want you to take a look. And the king looks at the spyglass and he goes, Oh! He goes, What kind of magic is this? And he goes, What do you mean? He goes, I can see the far-off eastern land and all their beauty. Why are you showing me this? I don't want to see the eastern land. I already know what they have. He said, No. Look again. So he pulls up the spyglass and he looks and he says, Oh my gosh, he recognizes that it's his own land. And he says, What kind of sorcery is this? And the king says, and the old man says, It's not sorcery. Just bear with me. So they walk along and they come up right to this park, and they're standing right to this park. And the old man says, I want you to look at this park through your spyglass. So he picks up the spyglass and he looks through the park and he sees beauty and wonder. And he says, Oh my gosh, this is truly magic. But what good does this do me? The king says, or the old man says, What good does it do you? So the king walks over. He looks around, gets down on his hands and knees, and he starts pulling up weeds. The people see him pulling up weeds. A few of them come over and join him, and they start to see some things appearing under those weeds. More people come and join them. More things are appearing. The children come over, and pretty soon they all stand back and they gasp. And after they have cleared out all the weeds and the brush and the scrubs, they see that there's a beautiful fountain and a beautiful statue in what was once a beautiful park. And they are all astounded. And the king says, look through the spyglass. So they all look through the spyglass and they see what could be. So he says, I'm going to leave you here and I'm going to let you do this. So he goes on and he comes to a farmer. And the farmer is sitting in his field all dejected. There's nothing going on. And he says, what's wrong with you? He goes, things are really tough. He goes, why are they tough? We can't even have enough crops for us, let alone selling them to somebody else. So the king says, here, look through the spyglass. So the farmer looks through the spyglass and he says, this is just magic. This is amazing, but this is magic. What good does this do for me? And the king says, what do you see? And the guy says, I see my family eating. I see a little prosperity. I see some joy. He says, I'm going to leave you here, but make it so. What you see, make it so. So he leaves the farmer. Next, they're traveling along, and he comes to a cathedral. And the friar is out there, and the cathedral's all broken down, and there's not much going on. And there are people in tents for their worship. And they're out in tents. He says, why aren't you in the cathedral? The king walks up, asks him that question. They said, well, it's all broken down, and we don't have enough means to fix it, and blah, 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 and there's no this and there's no that, and all the kinds of excuses that we all have. And he said, here, I want you to look through the spyglass. So they look through the spyglass, and they go, oh, my gosh, this is absolute magic. How can this possibly be? Now, some people believe, and some people say this is absolutely crazy. This is just a trick. It's never going to work. And the king says, make it so. Make it so. So later they leave, and the king is just amazed at this. He says, I need this spyglass, this magic spyglass. I need to have this. So they go back to the castle, and the old man says, no, you can't have it, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to loan it to you. You can have it for a year. One full harvest, you can have it. But after that full harvest, I'm coming back, and I'm going to take my spyglass back. The king says, okay, that's really great. So a whole year goes by. Knock on the door. The old man comes back and he knocks on the door, but this is a completely different door. This is the castle, but the door is intricately carved. It's beautiful. It's all put together. It looks like a castle. When the servant opens the door, it looks like a servant of a king. When the king comes to the door, the king looks like a king. He has a robe and a crown, and he's happy, and it all looks good. He says to the old man, this spyglass is amazing. It's magic. It's amazing what it's done for us. Let me show you. So he walks through the kingdom, and he sees that the park is beautiful. There are kids playing, lovers walking hand in hand, families enjoying it. And he sees the farmer, and the farmer's fields are flourishing. And because the farmer's fields are flourishing, there's wagons, and the mills are going, and the bakeries are going, and there's laughter, and there's happiness, and there's cotillions, and there's music again. And he walks to the cathedral, and he sees that although the cathedral's not done yet, it's well on its way. And they're all happy, and the entire village is participating and working on it. And the king says, I will tell you what, old man. He says, I will give you all the money in my treasure, everything I have, and enough wagons and people to carry it, if I can have this spyglass. And the old man says, you are very wise indeed, but no way. It's my spyglass. I'm taking it. The king says, how can I possibly keep this up without the magic spyglass? How can I do this? It's because of the magic spyglass that we have what we have. And the king says, no, it's not. Or the old man says, no, it's not. And the king says, well, what are you talking about? It's not the spyglass that got you to where you're at. The spyglass merely gave you a vision of what could be. of what you could make, of what you could do, of where you could go, of what you could have, of what you could be capable of. If you only have faith, a little vision, a little hard work, get you there. When you look through the spyglass and when you see it, it is your job to make it so, to go and make it so. And the king says, I had not supposed. And the old man said, that is why you were not successful. But now you know it is faith that built your castle. It is faith that planted those seeds. It is faith that begins everything that we ever start. It is faith. So as you go through the second journey of our program, I want you to think about faith. What do you want? When you look through your spyglass, what do you see? Think about how you're going to make that so. Think about what faith really means. Faith is the seed of hope. And hope begins when we open our minds and our hearts to what could be. So as you go through the program and you see some things and you say, no, been there, done that, doesn't work. Nah, I'm not going to do that. I want you to look at some of our formulas with a new mind, open mind, and a new open heart. Look through that spyglass, and as we go through this process, I want you to think about the faith and how you can make it so. Okay? All right. And now, I leave you to Dave.
All right. Make it so. We need a new spyglass on occasion to pull ourselves out from the natural question that most people ask themselves when they're setting a goal. You can raise your hand if you've done this before. You're setting that goal, you're listening to folks talk about what's possible, and then this question pops up. Is that realistic? Is that realistic? It only means then that you're setting a goal with one foot back in the past. And so you must resist that. We're going to give you some techniques, number one, for resisting that, and strategies and techniques to build your faith that you will achieve. That a good thing? All right, make it so. Getting out of our own way is often where we actually need to start in order to achieve. Now, to start getting out of our own way, I'm going to share with you a little something that will, a few things actually, that will allow your brain this morning to become a little more porous to new ideas. Because oftentimes we fall into what we call the I know syndrome. How many of you have raised teenagers? You've experienced I know, right? And if we're introspective enough, we will admit to ourselves that we've done the same thing. We hear some guy in the front of a room give us some ideas, some new things to think about, and we go, I'm not going there. Been there, done that, not going to try it again. Well, that shuts the brain down. Because we are faking ourselves out a bit to say that we actually have the solution. And so we go, I know. And when that happens, the brain no longer remains porous to the new idea. In order for brains to be porous to new ideas, we must, what we say, stay in the question. Actually, the most effective headlines, if you think about it, most effective headlines are question-based headlines. Why? Because the brain is stimulated. It wants the answer. The question you can use is almost a statement. You say, well, isn't that interesting? So, this morning, if we've already said something, or I will say something going forward, that you kind of go, oh, I don't know. The butterflies are strong on that statement. I want you to stay in the question and just say to yourself, isn't that interesting? You ready to try that with me? Let's do it. Isn't that interesting? Okay, come on, I heard a whole bunch over here. We'll say it. Isn't that okay. Now, when I do say something this morning that for yourself makes you a little bit nervous, go ahead and bark it out. I love it. In almost all my seminars, 9 or 10 times I hear this, "Isn't that interesting?" from the back of the room, and it's okay, because then that means people are listening. Just a little sign. Ready? So isn't that interesting? Now, the other thing for the mind, and it is, you've heard this statement before, an attitude is everything, right? An attitude gets effective based on where we put ourselves. We have an above the line, below the line sort of statement here. You might know some of these people who enjoy, well, actually they don't enjoy it, they just are there a lot. They reside below the line, where they spend all this energy on blame, developing excuses, or remaining in denial. You know any folks like that? Yes, we do. Where we'd rather be is we'd rather be above the line, where we're taking ownership, accountability, and responsibility for our business, because below the line is simply a victim's mentality. Above the line becomes the victor's mentality. Little Super Bowl trophy there for reminding us all. Below the line, it's an expense of time and energy just to create reasons, and not much gets done there. Above the line attitude, above the line mindset, we get results. Where would you rather be? Above the line, okay. All right, so the real nice thing about this is it's your choice. No one can take that away from you. Some folks that you know, maybe live with, might be really good at pulling you down here, but it's your choice how long you decide to stay. So, for this morning, would it all be right if y'all get above the line with me today, just this morning? Yes. You with me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So why do we get stuck? Well, we get stuck because of fear. Think of fear as simply false expectations appearing real. This is all the stuff from our past that we project into the future, and how good are we at really projecting the future? And we're unwilling to take all 10 steps because of fear. What are some of the best ways to overcome fear?
Try it.
Try it. Excellent. Right? By trying it, what do we gain? Experience. We gain some knowledge. Knowledge is one of the best strategies for overcoming fear. Here's a formula for change. If you want to use this, I guess this is going up on the blog or the chamber something, so this stuff will be there. To really create a great passion-filled future for yourself, start with this formula. It is D times V, paren times F, must be greater than R. The D stands for dissatisfaction. The V stands for vision. People are generally doing one of two things, and they really should be thinking about both. They are either running away from something they're dissatisfied with, or they're running forward to something. When you can crystallize both of these positions for yourself, now you got the fuel. Now you got the fuel to change. The F, though, is first step. Sometimes we're not quite sure, well, what's the first step? Well, you can seek advice, you can seek some help, you can seek some knowledge, and you'll learn that first step. Don't worry about the third step, not yet. Just take the first step. Small successes are huge for fueling the journey, because we must overcome resistance to change. D times V times F will give you the fuel, the power to move through resistance. Keep your change, keep your coins, I just want change. Another mindset. This is a great formula as well to help you understand the incremental strategies needed to achieve. For the most part, people are pretty good at identifying what they want. Okay, this year I want that. Where we aren't so strong is identifying what are the actions, what are the do's that we have to be effective at and actually do in order to achieve, what's the definition of insanity, everybody? All of that stuff, right? Right? So we might get this, and I would venture to say that from year to year, the goals or the results that we set for ourselves are a little bit different, maybe a little bit bigger. Well, guess what? If that's the case, then there's no question these have to change. We're not so strong at identifying what those do's are. And then when we're even less effective at identifying what do we have to do different about my B. The B is the knowledge, it's attitude, above the line. It's what are the skill set shifts that we need to adopt. And last, that's cash, by the way, just spelled a little different. What are the habits that must be dropped and the habits that need to be picked up? We must be effective at setting the strategies in be and do in order to achieve have. Does that make sense? Right. We spend a lot of time with our clients on be, do, have. A lot of times that's the place where we start with the business plan, because we got to be effective. Okay, why goals? Why are goals important? It's okay. Isn't that interesting? Okay.
Have to have a target.
Yeah, you got to have a target. You got to be shooting at something, right? Otherwise, we're just drifting, and unfortunately, that happens a lot. Well, the goal, actually, who's familiar with what's called the reticular activating system? Every one of you in the room has one. Yeah, every one of you in the room has one. RAS, it's your RAS, okay? What did I just say? Anyway. The reticular activating system actually is a part of your brain. I'll show you in a second, but it's right there. And it is a compass when it is vividly stimulated by a goal. Give you an example. But maybe a year and a half ago, I went out and wanted to buy a new car. And I just wanted something that I thought was kind of unique, right? I didn't want another Honda Accord. I wanted something a little bit different shape. So I went to the dealership and I bought this car. Nice, black, shiny. Now, I didn't see very many of these around, right? But when I saw that reticular activating system in kind of a different way get stimulated, I pull off the lot. First stoplight I got to after off the lot. What did I see?
Same car.
Same car. One next to me and one on the other side of the intersection. I'm going, what's going on? Before I even got home, I saw like 10 of these things. Because my reticular activating system was stimulated and the filters were set up for me to see things that I had not seen before. When you create a vivid, clear, passionate goal for yourself, it becomes a compass for your brain. You will begin saying yes to more of the right things, and you begin saying no correctly to things that aren't going to get you there. Instead of being distracted, I'll save that line. Reticular activating system, it's a real thing. Google it. It's really cool. It's right there. It's right there at the base of your brain. To really stimulate that reticular activating system, though, we have to write really good goals. How do you write a really good goal? You can use the SMART process. Your goal should contain specific statement. I mean, if anybody picked it up, they could say, oh, I know what you want. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant to the goal, not just something nice to do, okay, and time-bound, this by then. When you get all that pulled together and you read that goal on a frequent basis, you will continue to stimulate your reticular activating system. You got to say that slowly, otherwise you really get tripped up. Okay, another great way to gain passion around your goals are to do this. Create your SMART goal, and then ask yourself deeply, why is that important to me? Then you got to ask yourself, why again? Well, why is that important to me? You might want to even ask why one more time, right? Don't go through this with your teenage children. They'll Great story. Coaching an insurance guy. He came in for this session, And I said, so, okay, what is it that you want? What is it that what's your goal? And we did this for about 3 or 4 different goals. But on this particular one, it was his first one. He said, well, I need to be successful. I said, well, tell me more about that. I've got to achieve this amount of commission. Okay, reasonable. Why is that important to you? And he kind of looked at me. He said, well, you know. I said, no, I don't know. Why is that important to you? He said, well, you know, I've been burned through some of my retirement. This is a brand new life for me. And so I need to start replacing some of those funds. Oh, why is that important to you? Now I could tell that he's getting a little bit irritated with me, right? Who are you? Why are you doing this? And I said, no, really, why then is that important to you? He said, well, I don't want to let my family down. I don't want to let my family down. Now, do you think he's got some fuel? Now he knows why that goal, I need to make more commission, is so important to him. Make that connection. It's a great story. Okay, make it possible. So, dream stealers, who knows what a dream stealer is? Oh, we got a few hands going up. Right, we got a few hands going up. Right, these are the folks that just don't want you to get there because they haven't gotten there. They look a little bit like that, I think. I don't know. But yeah, if you've got dream stealers, right, it's contaminating your environment. Great book called Switch by the Heath brothers. Great book. They discovered, I'll make this real short, they discovered, you know how often it is when we say, I wish that person would change? Come on. Have you ever thought that? I wish that person would change? And what the Heath brothers discovered, they've got all these PhD, CPDs initials. I mean, they're really smart guys, but they're funny. They're funny guys, too. So if you want a great book, go read Switch. It talks about how people can change and why people resist change. What the discovery was, is although we like to put the crosshairs on the person as to why they are or are not changing, the discovery was, hey, it's a lot more than the person. It's actually the person's environment. And some of our environments have dream stealers. So, frankly, before you go to that dream stealer and say, I wish you'd change, you might want to just change your environment and dispense of that dream stealer altogether. Tougher to do when you live with them, I get it. Okay, another great story. I got to move fast. Another great story. We were making this presentation to, is that Wild Tree? Wild Tree. Yeah, and one of the ladies there actually she kind of challenged me. She said, what if you live with them? It was near the end of my presentation. I was kind of hoping I'd get out of there before that. And I said, first you gotta do the alignment. You gotta, I know another guy, I gotta tell him, you gotta do an alignment with this person. You gotta tell him, here's what's important to me. Can you support that? I'm not sure how. Well, here's some things you can do. Until you do that, because you are trying to affect the environment without saying, I wish you'd change, the alignment is at least the first step. And I don't have time for another story, but we got lots of stories from our coaching. Okay, so making dreams come true. Look, when I show this slide to folks, you know, some folks, high D's in the room, will go, oh gosh, here we go. He's going to ask me to cross my legs, light some candles, and hum. No, I'm not asking you to do that. I'm asking you to adopt some interesting and working strategies. Let's go through each of these. Idealization is just what Bonnie was saying. Look through a different lens. Consider, we have a saying, and sometimes we have to use this with our clients. We say, allow yourself to be surprised. Allow yourself to be surprised. Stretch your mind to what's possible. Go ahead and idealize. Don't ask yourself, is that realistic? That's just dragging the baggage from the past into the future. We want you to think big. Put that shark fin on your back. And go ahead and think big. You don't have to ask what's realistic at the goal or vision setting time. You can ask that a little bit when you're doing milestones at a strategy level, but not here. Allow yourself to be surprised. Then visualization. every day, twice a day. Just be thinking about what you idealized. Put a picture to it. Anybody familiar with what vision boards are? We got some, right? That is about visualization. This is a true story. Another great book called The Answer by Asaraf and Smith. In the book, Asaraf, one of the authors, tells this story. He was very, very big on visualization. Very big on it. And so he created these vision boards over time. He's extremely successful. First started off in real estate, and then came back to real estate later after building some big companies. Very successful guy. And he attributes much of it to visualization. So there in San Diego, with his son, his I think 5 or 6 years old, he's setting up his den. They just moved into this brand new house. Big, beautiful house in San Diego, overlooking orange orchards and things like this. Everything that he wanted. The son's kicking a box. He said, "Dad, what's in here?" He says, "Those are my vision boards." "Oh, can I see them?" And so he starts pulling out vision boards from the past, and one picture falls into the box. He picks it up. He goes back to his desk. He's got tears in his eyes. The picture that he picked up was exactly the house that they just moved into. Does it work? Yeah, it works. Visualization. Make it so. Then verbalization. I am statements. These are positive statements about where you will be or in the progress of doing. And you say these things to yourself 2 or 3 times a day. Statements about yourself and your life as to how you would describe it and choose it to be. And last, you do these things, work on the strategy, and they will materialize. Let's get deeper into strategy. Time management. How many of you in the room are in control? Huh? We sure wish we could be. Well, here are some strategies. Here are some time management strategies. First, 4 very key concepts. Number 1, you can't get it all done. You can't get it all done unless you got some strategies. Just give yourself a break. Time management is a decision-making process, which means you must have goals and you must have criteria. Otherwise, how do I prioritize? Right? How do I make decisions? It's about getting the right things done rather than busyness. And we'll show you how time blocks actually take your to-do lists and move them forward into action. Let's talk about those a little bit. Our decision-making process, our discipline, has 7 steps in it. I'm really just going to talk about 4 today, because I think these are the sort of the fundamental, the core of the discipline. First one is download. This is like peace giving when you do this. Peace of mind giving when you do this. And that is at the end of each week and at the end of every day, take inventory of all of the tasks that you believe you have. Big ones, small ones, get them on the list, get them on a piece of paper. It will be resting for you to just see it all in one place. How many of you have to-do lists? Holy cow, that's great. I think 66%. Usually we get like 50. All right, so to-do lists are good. How many of you have more than one? That's not good. That's not good. I was coaching a yeah, that's just what the CFO did. I'm coaching the CFO. And she came down to, they give me a conference room to coach. I coach like 15 of their people. And so she comes down and we're talking about this. She says, how many to-do lists do you have? I don't think I have any. Really? If someone says to me they don't have any, that means they got more than they can count. That's the truth. So I said, take me to your office. So we go down to her office, and I was just almost fell backwards. She had like 100 to-do lists. They were all pink, had to be pink Post-it notes. And they were like all over the place. I was surprised she could see your computer screen. One to-do list, consolidate it. At the end of each week and at the end of every day, list it. Why? Because we got to get that stuff out of our head. We got to get it and see it on paper. Otherwise, it contaminates our day. And we set ourselves up for these random tasks, you know, that you're going throughout the day and almost you're going to go, oh, I forgot to. Does that happen? Yeah, it happens. Get as much of that out of your head because your brain is like a random access memory chip. It can crash. Okay, so download, number one. Rank is second. Okay, rank means you have to have a goal, criteria in order to prioritize and end up working in the right zone. There's urgent stuff and important stuff. The more time you can spend down here, the better this gets, the less this occurs, and you can get rid of the delusionary stuff. Where do you think most executives, managers, owners, etc. work? Which grid do you think they spend most of their time in? Yeah, well, here, demand and distraction. Okay. What are some examples of that? And you have your own. But do you think if you spent more time on prevention and planning that you could take care of more of the crises? Right? Do you think that if you did more of this, you could take care of some of those distractions? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. That's where we want you. That's how we rank. What is important, Dave? Well, it's all based on impact. In order to understand impact, what do we need? Goals. We need the goal. Am I impacting that goal this week? A lot of times we'll have a client, who comes in and we start this off with them, and I'll say, I want you to go back over the last 3 weeks, and I want you to just literally list all the stuff that you're doing, right? And we've gone through goal setting, and then I say, okay, now how many of those line up with the goals that we just articulated? And they generally come back going, not enough. Because we end up getting distracted and doing the things we like to do instead of the things that are aligned with our goals. So, first, measure impact. Second, urgency. Let the system work for you. Nothing's really urgent unless it's falling in that rolling 5-day window. Right? Let the system work for you. Uh-oh, self-distraction. All right, so here's a phenomenon we see. We call it the shiny object syndrome. How many people have it? Right? That's, that's where we're sitting at our desk and all of a sudden, ooh, squirrel. Ooh, robin. Right? And and this is why we also want people to chunk things down. I better get to that. But just avoid this, and here's a technique for doing it. Okay? Chunk things down into small tasks. Try not to dedicate any more than 30 minutes to a task. If you feel you need more than that, then you've not chunked it down sufficiently. Right? Because if we give something an hour, sometimes people give it 2 hours to do something, what's the probability that they will be distracted in that 1 hour or 2 hour window? Pretty high, right? And if you do get distracted, what are the chances that you're going to find that extra hour in that day to recover? Unlikely. Now, if you chunk things down, right, and you give it 30 minutes, the probability of a distraction is less. And if you do get distracted, the likelihood of finding the next 30 minutes is far greater. Do the math. So chunk things down. Figure out sometimes when we chunk things down, we actually discover that we don't have to do everything. We can give some of that to somebody else. Delegate. Think of it this way. Delegate is development. Delegate is development. Now, if you can't delegate something, then you've got to kind of guess. And like I said, if you haven't gotten it broken down to like 30 minutes and I can make progress from here to here, right? Then you need to, chunk it down again. And then you put it into your week. Okay? So very important to chunk things down. And then last, then you just get it into your schedule. Right? Assign blocks of time to your tasks. We call them activity buckets. If you looked at all the stuff that you do, you could probably lump them into 5 or 6, maybe 7 activity buckets. Like, I got to do business development. I've got to allocate a certain amount of time to business development. I have what we call business execution. It's the actual coaching. I've got to make sure that sufficient hours of every week are dedicated to that. Otherwise, there go my billable hours. I've got to spend time on planning. I've got to spend time on communicating, meeting with my staff. And then I got to spend time on stuff. I'll show you what stuff is in a second. Half-hour time slots. Where do you start? Get all your non-negotiables into your calendar. We use Outlook primarily. All right, so I've got all my non-negotiables, all of my coaching schedule, it's non-negotiable. I got to be with that client. Same is true for Monty. By the way, Monty, raise your hand. Monty's another coach in our firm. So I get all my non-negotiables in there. After I do that, I see white space. I see some time that's not allocated. Okay, well, in that amount of time, that's where I'm going to put my demand and my zone tasks. And now I might also have some white space. Fill it with something. White space is dangerous. When I get white space on my calendar and that time of the day approaches, I kind of go, boy, maybe I can just go do something fun. Right? What happens when I get a cancellation? Or anybody in the room gets cancellation? We go, what am I going to do? If you don't have that to-do list readily handy, you will just meander that time away. No white space. And then just leave. We call it planning with margin in mind. Right? Planning with margin, because you do have to have some recovery time in that week. So it could be 10%, could be 15%, but just leave some time and call it stuff. Because then you can use that time, right? You won't whittle it away. You can use that time to pick up on stuff. Okay? Okay. I do not own a cat, by the way. Okay? If I did, it wouldn't be Budweiser. Excuse me. It might be Chardonnay. But, okay, why do we procrastinate? Well, guess what? You're going to see something quite familiar. We procrastinate because of fear. Well, fear of what? If we do something, we set ourselves up to being judged. Okay? Or a lot of times we just don't know how. Remember that first step? Just seek the advice. Chunk it down, make it small. Why else do we procrastinate? Happens all the time. We leave it too big. The task is too big, we look at it and we go, where do I start eating this thing? Right? Where do I start eating this thing? Chunk it down. Ed Sullivan Show. Who remembers Ed Sullivan Show? Come on. Geez, I hope more than just me. Good, thank you. Okay, you remember when Ed would bring on the guy who would spin plates on sticks? Right? All right, so he gets one going, and he goes, okay, got it. Then he gets another one going, right? He's just, and he goes back and gets that, and then gets that when he gets two more set up, right? Then he goes, whoa, and then I go down, got it. How does he keep 7 plates spinning? He attends to each one in small chunks of time. How can you keep 7 plates spinning in a day? You cannot dedicate 2.5, 3 hours to one plate. Right? So our job is to move the plates forward in the day, and the way we do that is we spend allocated time to each one so that they can all be spinning. Okay? I love the plate story. Why do people stay where they are? It is self-sabotage, right? And for us, self-sabotage can be overcome a lot just with language and getting that one foot out of the past. Because what do we often do to ourselves? We talk to ourselves. You know you got a little voice over here? Everybody got that little voice over here? Right? You know you got the little voice over here? Right? Dave has that voice over here. We all do. And sometimes when we're just about to go do something, we go, you know, I don't really know how to do that. I won't be successful at that. I'm not really suited to do that. And we let this little voice win. So language is everything. We say, yes, I can. Yes, I am. What did I start with? Allow yourself to be surprised. Here's the summary tips. Own your fear. False expectations appearing real. Gain knowledge, and you'll overcome fear. Change your mindset. You ready to do it with me? Isn't that interesting? Sometimes, when I'm talking to some folks, I'll say, okay, let's really try this, okay? There's a big room full of executives from one of my larger clients, and it's Chicago-based. So I said, here we go, let's try this. And I introduced the mindset thing. I said, let's just try this. In 2014, the Chicago Bears will win the Super Bowl.
Isn't that interesting?
And oh, by the way, I'm from Green Bay, so that's, ah! Here's a key, expect more but not perfection. Expect more but not perfection, take the first step. Don't guarantee, the only way you guarantee failure is not trying. So go ahead and try, allow yourself to be surprised. Oops, went too fast. I always like kind of bringing that guy up at the end, right? Language is everything. Make positive your language. Let this guy, gal, win more often. Stay away from dream stealers. Align with them if they're not going to move out or they're always going to come for the holidays, then you just got to get them aligned with what you want to do. Okay? Time management, use the 4. Start with the download process first. That's always where we start with people. It gives peace of mind to see it all in one place. And take your dream seriously. And then be this guy. Make it so. Thank you very much.